Hey, welcome to the Spector Creative channel on YouTube. And whether this is your first time here or you're a long-time viewer, this is kind of sort of a special episode because I want to address sort of who I am and why I've been talking about toys and the toy industry and Egyptian hieroglyphics and crazy cat videos. Okay, well, I haven't done as many cat videos recently. So, my name is Scott Neitlich, and I have been very, very fortunate to have had an amazing career in the toy industry for the last 23 years, almost 24 years. And making all these videos about the toy industry, I realize I've never really explained my credentials. I've been talking about the industry and some insights, but I haven't really actually spelled out why I'm a credible source to be giving out this information. I mean, why should you listen to me? I'm just some, crazy guy in a red shirt, right? All right, well, obviously, you Google me and there's are quite a few different sites that have interviewed me, and I've really tried to make myself available to anyone who wants to talk about toys because I love talking about toys. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. So, why is it that I'm constantly talking about toys and my time in the industry? Well, I've had such a blessed life and experience, and I'm so grateful for getting to work in the toy industry because I am also an active collector. And my passion is really what drove my career. I feel like I've been lucky, I feel like I've been blessed, and every company I've worked for, I have learned so much. And ever since I started working in the toy industry in 2005, I haven't stopped. All right, so let me give a little background of who I am and how I got there. So after high school, I matriculated to the University of California at Santa Barbara, UCSB, one of the most beautiful places in the multiverse. It is awesome. I was a double major there in film and media studies. That was my first major. But then sophomore year, I also added communication. So I graduated with a double BA in both majors. And I wanted to use these majors to essentially become a writer. With film, I emphasized screenwriting, and in communication, my emphasis was persuasion. I thought that I could, well, my original sort of dream job was to go into writing and to write TV commercials. I thought if I could write the coolest Super Bowl commercial, that would be the highlight of my career and the apex of, being able to write TV commercials. Well, that's not the way my career went, but I couldn't be more grateful for what has happened. So I did get hired out of college as a writer. I wasn't expecting to go right into writing TV commercials. I knew I needed to build my portfolio. And I'm very blessed that Allergan, the large pharmaceutical company, hired me as a copywriter to work in their advertising department. So I did things like this print ad for Lumagan, which is a glaucoma medication, as well as MD Forte, which is a skincare medication and cream line. I could tell you more about glaucoma and skincare than you probably ever wanted to know. I worked there for 4 years and kind of became an expert in glaucoma. Mainly what I wrote, though, while I did get to do some print ads, was material for drug reps, the people who go into doctors to show them why one drug should be better than the other. And in order to write this material, I had to become very familiar with what are called empirical studies. Essentially, I had to dig through studies and be able to extrapolate talking points that could be used to point out why one medication, prescription drug is better than the other. And I hadn't realized at the time that this skill set of being able to navigate fine print was going to translate to the toy industry, which really it was a dream job, but it wasn't really something I thought I could do. I grew up in Southern California. I was born in Connecticut, but I moved to California in third grade with my family when my dad got a job out in California. And we would see the Mattel toy headquarters off the 405 every time we drove to Los Angeles. So when I was at San Diego Comic-Con one year, and yeah, I know this was a booth I worked on, not the one I approached, but I couldn't find a picture of it from 2003, 2004. I was able to connect with Mattel, and I was hired as a writer for Mattel. So I left Allergan for Mattel and moved up to Los Angeles from Orange County. Now, I didn't start off as like a Mattel spokesman or anything like that. I started off as a writer in their Hot Wheels group. That was my first job at Mattel in 2005. Specifically, I worked on the sort of the basic Hot Wheels cars and play sets, and I got to name them and come up with the bio copy. I even got to name a few basic cars, like this one was Straight Pipes, which was designed by Larry Wood, who is a living legend of Hot Wheels designers. So getting to name one of his cars was like amazing. I couldn't believe I was working at Mattel. I even got to work on a Hot Wheels action figure line called Modifighters. I did a whole video about that experience on the channel. I'll link to it here. So that was really cool. Well, as fate would have it, I wound up transferring into the marketing group and got to work with amazing people like Bill Benecke on the DC Universe Classics line. Mattel had recently gotten the master license for DC and needed someone who knew a lot about the DC property, and I, as a comic nerd, totally knew a lot about DC Comics. And working with the line and DC and Warner Brothers, I got to see a lot of really cool toys come to fruition, like the first ever Commandy figure. Now, the reason I moved over into the marketing group was I pitched the idea to management about doing a direct-to-consumer collector line. As a collector myself, I basically explained to upper management that I was spending a lot of money on collectible product, but none of it was on Mattel product. And management liked my idea and moved me into the marketing group, mainly to work on the DC line, and then I was going to work on Maddie as sort of an extra project. And it blossomed and grew, and we got to do a ton of cool projects, like that hoverboard you just saw, as well as giant box sets that complemented retail lines like this Legion of Superheroes pack. And sort of by default, I wound up becoming a spokesperson for the line. It wasn't my intention, but as I said, I'm also a toy collector, so it's kind of like the hair club for men. I'm also buying the product I'm selling, and my passion for toys just kind of led me to wind up, becoming the person that was talking to the fan groups. The reason I started calling myself Toy Guru was I needed a screen name on He-Man.org. No one used their real names. And I wanted a name that would communicate that I was the source of information from Mattel. I was the official spokesperson, so I just came up with Toy Guru. It wasn't something I did for my ego or to make myself into a god, which, everyone knows I am a god, just kidding. And I did get awesome, things like getting to be a royal guard in the Masters of the Universe line, and eventually I was assigned a slot in the Masters of the Universe Classics line in the 30th anniversary series to create my own character, but that's a whole other video for another time. It was something management assigned to me when other plans fell through. So eventually, after about 10 years, I did resign from Mattel. I left on my own because a previous supervisor, boss of mine, had left for Jakks Pacific a few years earlier. And he basically called me up and said, "Hey, Scott, you've been at Mattel for 10 years, but I could offer you a promotion, a raise, and the opportunity to work on Star Wars toys." And he knew I really loved Star Wars. I actually was working on the Star Wars Hot Wheel line at the time, but those aren't action figures. Those are Hot Wheels, and Star Wars action figures is my real love. So I worked on the Big Figs line, which was various scales, 20-inch, 31-inch, and 48-inch, like this Michelangelo here. And I kind of worked on the line at the height of its popularity, and one of my big things was helping the team really create branding for the entire line. And kind of once again, my passion for toys led me to sort of become a de facto spokesperson. I wasn't in the PR group, but they knew, much like Mattel, that they could put me in front of the camera and I could talk to fans, and it came off as very honest and truthful because I was a fan. From there, I was recruited by a headhunter, or professional recruiter, not someone who collects heads, to work for Jada Toys, which is in the City of Industry. They needed someone to expand their figure line. They were expanding from cars to doing figures. And when I talk about myself as being a toy creator or toy designer, this is a perfect example because the Nano line at Jada is a line I designed. I walked into upper management and said, "Hey, these are my old metal Star Wars figures from when I was a kid. What if we did this? You're an expert with die-cast, and you've been using die-cast for vehicles, and you brought me in to expand the figure-based die-cast business, so what if we do minifigures?" And they loved the idea. I'm so grateful they were so supportive. I mean, I cannot tell you how amazing it was working for Jada and how supportive they were. So, yeah, when I say things like I'm a toy designer, it's because, yes, I designed this line. I came up with the architecture, the size, the scale, how we were going to do it, how we were going to price it, how we were going to sell it and package it. Obviously, I worked with a lot of talented people. I'm not saying I'm taking 100% credit, but the idea did originate from me. I walked in with those figures. From there, once again, a recruiter recruited me away from Jada, and I went to go work for Loot Crate for a little while. Loot Crate being the company that sells monthly mystery boxes based on a theme, like comic books or sci-fi or anime, etc., etc. And it was a very different experience working for a startup company, but really enjoyable because there was a lot of young people, just getting started. And what I was specifically brought in to Loot Crate was to work on their Loot Vault program and help manage it so that they could sell off extra inventory they still had, but still keep it collectible. They didn't want their inventory to lose collector value by being sold off at, rock bottom prices. They wanted it to still maintain value. All right, so after that, then my last job in California was Entertainment Earth. I was brought there by actually colleagues of mine who work at Entertainment Earth who called me up and said, hey, we're looking for someone to work on our exclusive line. While we sell product from other companies, Mattel, Hasbro, Jax, Jada, all the companies I worked for, well, not Hasbro, they also created their own toy line, which at the time was done under Biff Bang Pow, but they were looking to transfer it under Entertainment Earth proper. And one of those lines was Pinmates, which I absolutely fell in love with. I actually pitched this line at Jax of doing something very similar with the old Fisher-Price form factor. And when they approached me and said they wanted me to work on this line, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing, because I was with a team that pitched this idea at another company and it didn't go forward, and you're already doing it. I love it. So I absolutely jumped into it. I was so excited. And I got to really expand Pinmates, do some box sets, more vehicles, play sets. It was so much fun to deal with such a cute form factor and basically put all of pop culture in this, old form factor from Fisher-Price. Well, it was about this time that living in California got difficult. Traffic, cost of living, etc. And my daughter did not have a place to play. So my wife and I sat down and said, we need a better plan. And we looked all over the country of where we could live, and we found an amazing town in North Carolina called Greensboro. We went on vacation there, we tried it out, and it was just above our expectations in every way. So packed up our bags and sort of no jobs, no family, we moved to Greensboro, and I got to enjoy the comic book stores and the dinosaur museum and the water park and, 300,000 people and all this beauty. It's paradise. I even enrolled in University of North Carolina, Greensboro, to get my MBA. So when I moved here, I did stay in the toy industry. I formed Spector Creative as a consultant, and I have been actively consulting for the last 2.5 years with many, many toy companies around the country, as well as entrepreneurs who want to start a toy company and helping them design product and find ways to bring it to retail. So I've been very blessed that I never left the toy industry. Yes, I left Mattel in 2014, but I've never stopped working for a toy company or working with toy companies, be it for one or now for myself with Spector Creative. And I'm so grateful for all of the experience I've had, for every company that's employed me. I love making YouTube videos now, and because I'm so grateful for the experience I've had, it's especially a thrill to be able to share that with others and put out information that, as a toy collector, I always found, wondered why it wasn't put out. So there you go. There are my credentials of how I've been in the toy industry for over 20 years. I never stopped. And I've gotten to work for many, many companies and had many experiences working on action figures, selling them in stores, online, pitching to retail. Really the whole kit and caboodle, from brainstorm all the way to, on sale. And again, so grateful for all the experiences I've had. Thanks for listening, and I hope now this adds some credibility to why I do these videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the comments section.